Good evening. It's 6:30 and welcome to my second town hall meeting, virtual town hall meeting. I'd like to welcome everybody who is here and hopefully some people show up. If you want to get a hold of me tonight, you can either get a hold of me with the YouTube live chat feature or text me on my cell phone at 501-743-2501 or email me at mayor@cityofward.com. And in reality, the text message and the email, you can get a hold of me anytime that way, not just tonight. So to start off a couple things, I thought I'd go over a few things with you before we get started. If I can get this up and running correctly, there we go. Then we have a planning commission member opening on our planning commission. If you live in a city and you wish to get involved with planning of zoning and subdivision regulations and what comes into the city and have a voice at the commission, by all means, there's an application on the website or you can contact us. It's a simple application, not a job application. They need to be turned in to me by 12 noon on June 12th. Like I said, the application's on the website, and then I'll interview the applicants and make my decision. The makeup of the commission is responsibility of the mayor, and so I'll make those recommendations and announce that to the city council at the next city council meeting. We additionally have a code enforcement officer opening. Our code enforcement officer has decided he'd like to go back to school and do some other things, so he has turned his notice in. This is a full-time position with full benefits. We pay 100% of medical, 60% for the employee, 60% medical for the family, and other benefits: full paid holidays, paid vacation, paid sick time, and retirement benefit in the APERS, the state retirement system. This is a full-time position. Like I said, normal hours are 7:30 to 4:30. That is adjustable. And the pay range between $14.50 an hour and up to $17.50 an hour, depending on experience, of course. And see the website for additional information. Some upcoming events. Planning Commission meets on May 22nd at 7 p.m. If you'd like to come out and take a look and see how that process works before you put your application in, you're certainly more than welcome. Memorial Day, we are closed for the Memorial Day celebration. June 6th, we're going to have a hazmat and shredding event at 9 to noon, and that'll be at the Water Ops building on 2nd Street where we have our normal cleanup. Paint, bring all your paint. We're going to have a company there that will take all your paint, your oil, and all your hazardous materials. We're also going to have a shredding company there, so if you got old documents and paper just laying around that you really need to shred instead of just throw around, here's your opportunity. It is free for you. It doesn't cost anything. It is open to city residents only, though. But please come out from 9 to noon that day and get rid of all your paint. I know I have a lot of paint in my shed, and I'm going to get rid of it, and I probably have a few things I need to have shredded. Next city council meeting will be at 6:30 on June 19th. And here's an important thing for everybody to understand. The Great American Eclipse, April 8, 2024. I realize that's less than a year away from us now, but this is going to be a big deal. This will be a total path of totality across our area. And in past and in planning, the people we've been talking about this and the meetings we've been attending, this is going to be an influx of a lot of people in all these towns. So they anticipate during this time period, a day or two before, the growth of any particular city might be 2 or 3 times normal because of people coming in. My understanding is that Airbnb, short-term rentals, and other hotels and stuff in this path are already booked for this time period. We are looking at the probability of turning our park off of Peyton Street into a makeshift mini RV camp at that time and hosting some people out there. We're talking about having movies in the park and stuff like that to entertain folks for a few days before, maybe a day after. But mark your calendar. This is going to be a big deal. I understand that the Cabot school system has already, for their 2023-2024 calendar, has already marked this day as a day no school. It's that big deal. The path is about, I don't remember the exact time, but it's around noonish, and it's odd. I've been in a total eclipse when I was stationed in Europe, and it was different. It was odd, but be ready for that. We also talked about the Ward Centennial, 1923 to 2023. The city is 100 years old next month, and we're going to continue to work. We're continue to work on some things to celebrate that, but we need your help. We don't have all the ideas, and we certainly could use some ideas. So with that, I'd like to just open the floor open, so to speak, and just call or text or on the chat. Let me know what you want to talk about. You know, we had a pretty spirited city council meeting the other night. Maybe a little heated, you might say, but spirited would be a better word, on a rezoning issue out in the south part of town, and then the rezoning was defeated. But that was a prime example of our citizens getting involved and voicing their opinion. About 20 people or so showed up at the public hearing about it, and again at the city council meeting, and voiced their opposition for the rezoning, which may probably would have resulted in a Dollar General on the south end of town, but it ended up the council, city council, disapproved the rezone. There is a possibility in time that the developer may come back and want to try a rezone again or something else. Certainly, we need to do what we can to bring more businesses to the town, to bring not only more income, but the ability for our citizens not have to travel so far, either into Cabot or into BB, to do some shopping, either big shopping or a grocery store, or even just pick up a few items at a Dollar General or whatever. We need to have that ability. We need to think about those things as we move forward. I respect the council for their decision. That's the process. But we also need to look forward and look for additional avenues for businesses to come into the city, and those type of things will come back up for the planning commission and the city council as this town continues to move forward. So it was all in all, it was a good meeting. Lasted about an hour and a half. A lot of good dialogue, a lot of good discussion. But it was a very good meeting, and I'd encourage you to come out and watch the city council on our YouTube channel, of course, but come out and participate and voice your opinion and make your opinion known. If we have an ordinance or a resolution before the council votes on that, besides their discussion in the process, I always open the floor open to the public and for your discussion. Come up and tell us what you think about that particular ordinance or resolution. Let us know what you believe. And also at the end of the city council meeting, there's always an open period of time for anybody to bring forward to the city council virtually anything they want to talk about, anything in particular. But we welcome that. I think that citizen participation is needed for good governance. There are 6 members on the city council and myself that are your governing body, but we need your input. Always welcome your input, good, bad, or ugly, but give us your input, and we'll go from there. Let me see here. I heard a ding. I don't know whose phone it is. I was queued up to me. Part of the discussion with the rezoning effort was the potential traffic issues out on Highway 38. First of all, Highway 38 is scheduled from Highway 367, there by Big Red, or Circle K as it is now, in Cabot or Austin. Sometimes I'm not quite sure what that borderline is, but you know what I'm talking about. All the way to Des Arc. 38 is going to be resurfaced probably in 2025. The bid will go out next year. It'll be resurfaced with 2-inch shoulders, so that road is rough to everybody. Will get a resurfacing. Along the same lines, I have asked Metroplan to ask RDOT through this process to do a traffic study at Highway 30 319 and 367, excuse me, Highway 319 and 38. They're at Dude's Place. I anticipate that at some point we'll have a traffic light at that location. The traffic will warrant it. Of course, the traffic light we have in the city took 14 years to materialize, so even if RDOT decides we need one today, it may be a while before it's actually installed, but it's a process, and we are looking at that. Also, Highway 319, which is Peyton Street, is scheduled to be repaved late this summer or early fall from Highway 38, Dude's Place, all the way to the railroad track. I know that's always a bone of contention with the potholes in that road, and I've said before, yes, there's potholes in that road, and we have gone out as a city and filled some. It's not our responsibility, if you will, when we use our materials and labor to fill state highway. It's RDOT's responsibility, and we have a good working relationship with the local maintenance section and have direct lines with them and let them know when things are bad and getting worse, and they're pretty good about responding. But if things get to a certain point and it becomes a safety issue, we have gone out there and put some of our own material with our labor into it, and in a partnership with RDOT, if you will, and I'm sure they've also done it to ours. Just for clarification on that shoulders I talked about on Highway 38 and on 319, there'll be 2-foot shoulders put on. If you've gone out 319 from 367 in town to the Faulkner County line, that's what they're going to do. They're going to repave it, resurface it, and that'll be 2-foot shoulders on each side. And as they need to, they will replace culverts if need be along that track. So some good things coming. The city continues to grow. More subdivisions are being discussed, but with more subdivisions comes more infrastructure issues, traffic problems, things that we must discuss, and business opportunities. So what's on your mind? I'm looking at my devices and yeah, we do have a couple things. Is there any movement on the paving the entrance to Legacy Farms? As a matter of fact, there is. I held a meeting with the and Legacy Farms, for those of you who are not aware, there is a planned urban development, a PUD, that is at the end of end of Balding Street. And Balding Street is a street that you turn onto to get into the post office. That's Balding. At the end of Balding Street is a planned urban development of 100 houses, and there's also some additional potential duplexes and quadplexes up there, swimming pool. It's a planned urban development, so it's different, being HOA up there, a homeowners association. But at the end of it, the narrow Balding Street turned into gravel. And to answer individual's question on chat, yes, we had a meeting with those individuals who own the houses, own the property on Balding Street. Balding Street is unique. It's my understanding it was the first road in the city that was paved, and it was paved without any, back then, whenever that was, without any consideration for right-of-ways and easements and things like that. It just was whatever road was there, they paved it. Well, some of those homeowners up there, their property lines actually go over the road, so we've had to address those issues. We've talked to all of them that live up and down there, and we have a consensus about paving that road. We have an engineering firm that's going to work up the engineering on that, and then at that point we'll go out for a request for proposals from companies to put a bid in to pave Balding Street, make it 18-foot wide. We can't expand it to the full, what we'd like to, 24-foot or 27-foot. I can't remember the exact, with curb and guttering. It just, it's not there yet because of cost considerations and also drainage in that area. But the road will be extended and paved all the way up to Legacy Farms to to give a nice road up there and the community development up in that area and the economic development for that area. There's some property that's near there that's also for sale that could be commercial, depending on who might buy it, and some other areas up there. But we first had to get a consensus with the homeowners because, again, the property lines are all very goofy, for lack of better terms, up there as you go up Baldwin. But I think we've come to a good consensus. The engineer firm will work up our bid package. We'll get it out and see what this is going to cost. And then in partnership with Legacy Farms, the city will see what the costs are and what our funding sources are for that. But to answer your question, yes, we have movement going forward to pave the entrance to Legacy Farms. Thank you for your question. What else we have out there? What else do I need to talk about? I sometimes get text messages from staff or some others saying, you need to say this. Okay, thank you. We'll do that. You're welcome, Blake. That was an individual on the chat that asked that. But what else we got to talk about? Let's see. Let's talk about a few things. We got 4th of July celebration coming up. We talked about, I think at the last meeting, that we might do it on a weekend before the 4th. We really couldn't do that. We're trying to get a festival, a carnival in here, and we were just behind the power curve on getting that done this year. So we're just going to do the 4th of July on 4th of July like we normally do with the big fireworks. The difference this year, the fire department will not be putting on the fireworks. We've contracted with a company to do it at approximately the same price that we normally spend for fireworks, but it'll be done by a professional company. This allows our fire department to remain vigilant and responding. If you've been around for a while, there's been a couple times in the past when we've tried to get the fireworks off, and about the time we decided it's time to shoot them off, the fire department gets a response somewhere. 2 or 3 years ago, they had multiple accidents out on Highway 167, and we kind of had to delay the fireworks until we could get those firefighters back to shoot them off. But anyway, with a commercial company this year, we won't have to worry about that, and the firefighters can enjoy the 4th with their families like everybody else. We already have a band lined up. The color guard will be there, and it's always a good time. We're going to have, I think, Michelle, our Parks and Recreation director. We have several food trucks already lined up. We will be giving away hot dogs free this year. We're not going to do hamburgers. We're going to do hot dogs only. But there'll be plenty of vendors out there for you to do. We're going to have water slide and other water stuff for the kiddos. There'll be the bago tournaments and bago setups and whatever else. It's just a great time. We just hope that the weather holds out. There's been times when it's rained so bad we couldn't park cars out into the field, and that's a problem. Hopefully it'll be good and either not too cold. I had a question about the possibility of including up to 18-year-olds in the fishing derby next year. It's several 16-year-olds that wanted to fish, but were disappointed because of the age limit. Well, that's something we'll take a look at. I think, and I'm not positive, but there may be some rules in using Arkansas Game and Fish and calling it a youth tournament. I'll have to ask Michelle, our Parks and Recreation, about that, Park Recreation Director, about that. But there may be some rules about that for Arkansas Game and Fish and getting it stocked by them and calling it a quote-unquote youth hunt. But we'll take a look at it. Let me write it down because I will forget. Very good. So 4th of July will be a grand thing. Movies in the park. Let me show you a couple things here. Hang on a second. The annual fishing derby, we had some great sponsors this year. All in all, we had. Where's my button? Go to the next one. I'm trying to advance the slide. It's not letting me. Sometimes technology is fun, sometimes it is not. Okay, now I think I can do this. Great sponsors, had a lot of prizes. 130 kids signed up this year. Virtually every single child that participated got a prize. Whatever, we had a whole bunch of fishing poles to give away and tackle boxes and all kinds of stuff. And here's a picture of the grand prize winners. The littlest one, the smallest one, caught the biggest fish actually at 3.8 pounds. He had a blast. It was fun. Bragging on a little more, our cleanup on April 29th, 20.68 tons of garbage was removed from the city on a very, very rainy day. It wasn't that cold, but it was very, very rainy. Water, wastewater volunteers were out there. The ladies in the office were checking, make sure that it was, people were living in the city. Community service workers who are working on fines and such with the probation officer, they were out there, and other department volunteers. Councilmember Rubel and I took my truck and a trailer and drove around town, and we actually loaded up 8 different loads that we brought up there. Not saying that's what we want to do every year, but we just did and went out and cleaned up as best we could. In conjunction with that, and again, on June 6th, we're going to have our hazmat and shredding event. You got paint and stuff. This would be a great time to get rid of it. Just bring it up there. There'll be the proper company is there to receipt for all of it and get rid of it for you, and that'd be good. So it was a great opportunity, a great day. It was very, very nasty. Like I said, 20.68 tons of garbage removed from the city, and we had a lot of help. And then May 6th, we had Movies in the Park, our first movie in the park. We showed E.T. It was comical. When the movie first started, in one of the first scenes, somebody answers the phone that's hanging on the wall. And I just was wondering, how many in the audience, especially the kids, have a clue what even that was? It was a phone. But anyway, it was a great time. We're going to look to do it again late July. We haven't picked a movie yet. We have, of course, we have to pay for the licensing. We can't just show movies that somebody may have on a DVD. We, by law, to make it right, and by law, we had to pay for licensing. And so we did that on ET. And we'll look at, see what we're going to do for July 22nd. But it was a lot of fun. Concession stand was open, so we had almost like the old drive-in movie, which some of you probably don't recall that either, but old drive-in movie times where the concession stand was open, and you had hot dogs and whatever, and popcorn, and it was just a great time. The weather was perfect that night for that. Late July, yeah, it's iffy, but we'll give it a shot and see how that works. But again, it was just a great time, and again, I'd like to thank Parks and Recreation Director Michelle Fitzgerald. She just does an awesome job for us. That's just a couple things going over. Oh, I need to push this back up because I can't see the chat if I don't do this. And there we are. Okay. All right, what else we want to talk about? Let's see. At 4th of July, movies in the park, fishing derby. Oh, we did put in as a city, or I put in through what's called the Street Aid Committee for overlaying some streets in the city. And we put in for Owen Street, Barkin from 367 to the railroad track, and then North Street from 319 to 367. That goes toward a committee, and it's competed against every city in the state. But we'll see how that works out, and hopefully we'll get full funding or partial funding and be able to repave or overlay some of those streets. We did this last year, a year ago, for some streets over near Willow Lake, in the Willow Lake area, along with some streets, Helen and Opal Streets, I believe, were overlaid in this project. And this is a project funded by the state. It's 100% funded. We're responsible for right-of-way issues if there are any, or utility movements if there are any. But the state pays for up to $300,000. With today's prices, that doesn't pave a whole lot anymore, but it's better than not. Somebody asked, is it possible to widen the turnoff of Brewer onto Markham into Lillian subdivision? It's a really tight turn, and if you have a low car, you have to wait for other cars to pass. We'll take a look at it. Brewer onto Markham and into the, I know that Markham from Brewer down past Lillian and those subdivisions, when that subdivision was built several years ago, there was some additional widening done by the developer in that area, but we need to look at that. Widening the turn off of Brewer onto Markham, turning right, I guess, right there. We'll have to see. I'll just let you know, there is a project, our SARTS 4 Safe Routes to School project, that's approved by the state. We are working up a sidewalk run that'll run from Moon Road Extension, where it ends right there across from the lake or the pond, up Brewer Street on the side of Cornerstone Church, that side of the street, all the way up to Brewer Street, or excuse me, Markham Street up Brewer. That's part of the project. Also, on the other side at Moon Road Extension, it'll go up across from the school up that area, and then across that, I can't remember the name of that subdivision right now to save me. Oh, shoot. Hang on, let me see if I can find something that tells me what it is. Oh yes, Gold Medal Loop. From Moon Road up Wilson Loop on the frontage of that, and in front of Gold Medal Loop. Those are phase 4 that's been approved, and we have a design firm through Metroplan who will be designing that out, and we'll go from there. So yeah, we'll take a look at that, see what the possibilities of that are. But thank you for your comment, and please feel free. Again, I guess I could go back to it in a minute, but 501-743-2501 is my cell phone number. Call or text. I sound like a radio DJ. Or mayor@cityofward.com. Well, thank you. Somebody just text on the chat on YouTube, and thank you for everything you're doing to improve our city. You're welcome. It's a never-ending process. Governance of a city is a work in progress for every single thing we do. As we look forward to the future and try to plan as best we can, and as we work on issues that are brought to our attention in the day, we try to do the best we can. When I ran for office first time 5 years ago, I made a point that I would be accessible to virtually anybody, and I think I am. There's probably been times when I wasn't accessible as somebody might have liked, but I really do try to return phone calls, answer texts, answer emails, visit you and your problem specifically in your area if need be, or I make sure that the issue is addressed by one of my department heads and departments. At this year, beginning of the year, we combined, or made a public works department. What we did, we took the street and the water and the wastewater operators and made them under one director, Bruce Jones, our public works director. That way all our outside laborers are now under one boss, if you will. Under him is a foreman that functions as the go-between to all of it. And that way we have one entity. We have outside activities such as whatever we need to do with fixing water leaks or street repairs. We have a pool of laborers that we can utilize more easily because they're under one section now, and it's made it. I think it's made it very good. It's made our communications much better on different things, and I think we're doing a great job. I commend our department heads for all they do, and thank you for the comment about what I'm doing to improve our city. We're doing the best we can. We, the city employees, the city council, the planning commission. The goal of all of this is to make our city safe and secure for everybody, and plan for the future. If we don't plan for the future, we are not going to have things in place as best we can for the future. And even if you plan for the future and you make plans, and it's best to be flexible because things change. For instance, who knew several years ago that there was going to be a planned hospital off of Highway 38? Well, first, who knew that the Highway 38 extension was going to go right there? But then now we have Unity Health is going to build a hospital, and if you've not seen the plans, it's on our website. It's going to be extensive. That's going to increase traffic down 38, as we talked about before. That's going to be a need for a traffic light at 38 and 319. That is going to need for additional commercial corridor down 38. It's just going to happen. That is progress, and we have to plan for it as best we can. But we all, we don't always get it right. When we think something's going to move in a certain direction, it doesn't. But we do the best we can, and again, we need your input for all this. Your blessings, your prayers for all this too, because running a city, being on a city council, is not necessarily for the fame and glory, by no means. But we do what we can to do that. Well, I'm looking at my, oh, that's behind. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm looking at my feed online, and it looks like my feed is not doing the same thing that I'm doing in front of me, but maybe it is, and I'm just not seeing it live on this particular thing. But anyway, my apology. Sometimes things just don't work like it's supposed to, or maybe it is, and I don't see it. But anyway, I will continue to impress and want you all to get involved. If you don't know your city council member, get to know your city council member. If you want to come talk to me, come talk to me. Email, text. We are all very responsive about how we do business. Sometimes you may not like the answer you get, but that's sometimes that's what we have to do. We cannot please everybody. It's just the way that life is, so to speak. But city governing is no different. Conversely, if you don't know who your JP, your Justice of Peace is, there's lots of things that go on the county side that affect you also. Or your state representative. Our state representative, Jim Wooten, great guy. Our state senator, Senator Ricky Hill. He's now the third in command, if you will, at the Senate. He is Senate Majority Leader. So he's a very powerful senator now. Jim Wooten's been in a state representative for many, many years. He's our new state representative due to redistricting, but I've had many conversations with him and Senator Hill during this last legislative session about things that affect the state as a whole, and conversely the city of Ward. My responsibility, and one of my responsibilities, is to make sure that I talk with our state representative and talk with our state senator on things that affect us. And I'm not shy about it. I have their phone numbers. They have mine too. They will contact me and ask for my opinion on things, and we'll discuss the issue at hand. One issue that was brought up in the state legislature this year that we continue to talk about is short-term rentals. As you may or may not know, we have a few short-term rentals here in town, but we anticipate that as this industry continues to grow, we may have more and more. And it's not so much an issue with the city of Ward yet as it is with cities like Hot Springs or Euchre Springs and others that have issues with short-term rentals. And what I mean is people who rent their house for 30 days or less, or maybe even less than 90 days, and you have an influx, you have this constant coming and going of visitors, almost like a hotel, but not. We've talked about it in city council. There's a draft ordinance that we're talking about, but because it's a change in the subdivision regulations about where these short-term rentals could go or are, we will have to have a public hearing, at least one public hearing, to discuss it and allow people in a truly public hearing situation to make their opinions known on this. But what we're looking at, and just to give you a heads up, is if you own a house and you want to rent a room to whomever for a short period, a weekend, and 30 days, whatever, up to, maybe 3 months, and you live in that house, go for it. That's on you because it's owner occupied. That's what we're looking at right now. But if you don't live in that house, or you're a corporation who has bought some houses and you're renting them as short-term rentals, that needs to be a permitting process, and we need to know who is responsible for that house. At 2 o'clock in the morning, when the police department's called for a disturbance, who do we contact? Who's responsible? Or the yard gets trashed, or there's been horror stories that in front of the state legislature. I went down to the committee hearing when they had a committee hearing on the short-term rentals. It was about 6 hours of comment. Everybody was given 3 minutes to speak, and it was about 6 hours of comment. That's how many people showed up to vote to discuss pro and con on it. But a lot of horror stories, not necessarily, not here in Ward per se, but in a lot of places where you move into a residential neighborhood, it's a nice, quiet residential neighborhood, and then you get a couple short-term rentals operating in your neighborhood, and it's no longer a nice, quiet neighborhood. And if you think speeding is the problem now with the people who actually live there, think about the people who don't live there, who are just there for the weekend. We've had complaints. There is a short-term rental in the Legacy Farms area. We've had complaints about speeders up in that area, and they believe it's the short-term rental people, and it may be. But we're looking at it. So just this will come later. Like I said, we got to have public hearings and some more research on this before we bring it out. But there'll be more to talk about later on that, and public hearings, like I said, before it's brought to the Planning Commission and then eventually to the City Council for adoption if they choose to do so. Just some things that we're contending with from the state level down, and just let you know, we do have, I believe there's 2, maybe 3 houses in the Ward area, Ward city limits, that are listed on Airbnb or vacation rentals by owner. We have a couple of houses that are rented, they're renting a room in their house for short-term rentals. And again, I think if you are living in your home and you want to rent your room out to whomever, that's entirely up to you because you're living there and you have to put up with it and you can regulate it. However, if you are a corporation or you don't even live in this home and you want to rent it out on a short-term basis, I think there should be some permitting and some regulations in place to keep the peace in our residential, because that's where they are in the residential areas. And if you have any comments on that, again, feel free to let me know and what you think of the idea or not. But it's something that we are working on, and it will come up, like I said, later on this after we get through discussing it and having a public hearing or two on this before it goes to the planning commission and then to the city council. So that's coming up. I'm trying to roll through my mind about some things that are affecting everybody. Let's see. Coming up in October, I'll just give a little preview. I mean, the Ward Chamber of Commerce and the city always partners for the Chamber Fest. Knowing about Halloween time, and that's always a grand time, and we'll plan for that again. And of course, we'll be planning up this year for our annual Christmas parade and lighting of the tree over by the Chamber building, and that's always a good time. But when we have, like I said, we have some ideas in mind on a 100-year celebration things. We have talked about a poor boy supper, if you will, up here at City Hall and other things. And but we're only limited to by our imagination. Some of you have lived here much longer than me, and have some great ideas on how to celebrate, or your family has been here for many, many years and have some great ideas. Please share. We'd love to hear it. Also, did you, maybe you don't know this, there's actually a museum here in City Hall. Now, granted, it's not a full-blown, fully displayed museum, but there is a museum of such in City Hall, and it's another item that we want to address and better make that museum more, but it's a better place, a better way to display some of the items that have been given to us. I've got some information where a lady has several items that she used to be a school teacher here and would like to give to us. If you remember, this was a Ward Elementary School many, many years ago. But we do have a museum up here, and you're welcome to go up here and take a look and or donate. Also, if you are so inclined and want to volunteer to maybe help organize and categorize and catalog all that stuff in there and give us ideas on improving that area, we'd welcome it. Any ideas like that is more than welcome, and I encourage you to get involved. Well, let's see what else we have going on. Well, not a lot of folks are texting, and I guess that's okay. But I do know that a lot of times on social media, there's a lot of talk about things going on, good, bad, ugly, different, things are not necessarily correct or are just completely wrong. And social media sometimes blow things out of proportion, and we get involved sometimes if asked or if we need to correct something. But my goal in doing this virtual town hall is to have this opportunity, to give people an opportunity. This is the night that you have questions as to why we're doing something, why we're not doing something. Like I said, I'm available anytime, but tonight on these virtual town hall meetings is a good time for you to chime in. And we'll do this again. I'm not going to give up. August 16th, we'll do this again. And then maybe we'll get some more participation, or maybe everybody just is okay with what we're doing. But I don't think so. There's a lot of opinions out there, and be happy to entertain anybody who want to have to say. Let's see. So we talked about the things we've done, movies in the park. We talked about 4th of July coming up and the movies in the park in late July. I'm not sure, but I think there may be a second fishing time. I think we did this last year. Department of Game and Fish had a second offering for fish, and we did a second one last year. I'm not sure if that's going to come available this year, but we'll make sure everybody knows if it does. Job opening at the city, that's a good thing. Planning Commission opening, that's also a good thing. Let's see. Talked about some streets that may be overlaid. Well, one thing that I'm going to work on here shortly is we have a grant opportunity uh, administered through the Central Arkansas Planning and Development District. And what we're looking at is possibly getting a grant to fund a strategic planning study, bringing in an outside source to walk us, you and I, city governments, city employees, and the citizens, walk us through a strategic planning for the future. I think it's very important because we really, really, really need to look forward to the future as we continue to grow. And speaking of continuing to grow and planning the future, I think I mentioned this last time, but if not, the 911 consolidation. What that means is state law was passed that all counties have to consolidate their 911 call centers into one or two, depending on the county. The county of Lonoke had 6 what's called public service PSAPs is what it's called, and public service answering point, PSAP. We had 6. The state said we have to have 1. So we are in a process. We have developed a plan. We being the mayors that have PSAP and the county judge and the county sheriff on a plan for a centralized 911 call center, dispatch center. That area, that site will be in Cabot, and it'll be run by the 911 committee, which will be the elected officials, the mayors and the county judge for the county. It won't be run by any one particular entity, as we planned out now. In other words, the center may be located in Cabot, but it will not be under Cabot's control per se. The personnel would be run through Cabot's HR department and for benefits, but the center, as we have discussed, will be in city limits of Cabot, but it'll be run by a committee, and the committee would hire the 911 director, who would then hire dispatchers and all associated staff. This works well and has worked well in other parts of the state. Greene County, up in Paragould area, actually Paragould runs the consolidated 911 center, but they dispatch for all the fire departments in the county and all the police departments, so it can be done. Saline County has just recently consolidated into their one dispatch center and 911 center, but this is something that we don't have an option. This has to be done by 1 January 2025. It has to be operational. And so we being the county leaders, the county elected leaders, the CFO, CEOs, if you will be meeting and iron out the details on how this new organization will run. Bottom line is it will provide a much better 911 system. Right now, if you call 911, depending on where you're in the county, you may be bounced between 2 or 3 different, or at least 2 different 911 centers to get to the right one. That's time that is wasted on an emergency, and this will eliminate that. All 911 calls and non-emergency calls will come to one center and be handled within that center. It'll be a good thing for the county, definitely a good thing for the county going forward. It modernizes our communication system with the various agencies and how they're handled. It'll be a great thing. There'll be some costs involved with it going forward, but there's state 911 funds available and some other resources that'll help us get this off the ground, and then we'll work on how we fund it going forward. But bottom line is you have to do it because the state law changed and said you have to do it, and we'll get it done, and it'll be a great thing for the city and for the county as a whole. So that's coming forward too. We talked about, let's see, what else we talked about? Oh, well, we talked about the sidewalks, SARTS 4, no sidewalks on, that I talked about earlier. We have a proposal in for Another set of sidewalks going down, where's that going down? Let's see. My apology. SARTS 4, Safe Routes to School 4, goes down in front of Gold Medals, like I said, but this portion actually continues on Chanticleer in the subdivision over off of Green Acres and comes around to, let me go back to the map. Okay. A portion of SARTS 4 that's been approved already and funded will go down, will continue down Chanticleer over to Castleton Drive, back down Castleton Drive to Green Apple Drive. The portion that I talked about down Brewer is actually a proposed plan that we have to have submitted by 1 June. And we have an engineering company that's working that up right now, so my apologies, those were wrong. So SARTS 4 is funded, and the construction design is in the works for down Chanticleer, over to Castleton, and back down to Green Apple, and then down Wilson Loop from Moon Road, down in front of Gold Medal Loop. And SARTS 5 is proposed down Brewer Street. I'm sorry. Sometimes it gets confusing. Obviously, it gets confusing to me. But fortunately, I have things on my computer that I can look up and find out what I need to be doing. So there's 2 sidewalk projects we're talking about. We are also in the process of working up a possible grant for a combination pickleball basketball court over in our park. There's some grant money available for that through Parks and Recreation areas, and we're looking at that. We're also working, we've done a lot of filling in on the backside of what's field number 2. If you've been out there, we're going to expand field number 2 from a 200-foot to a 300-foot field, so we'll have 2 300-foot fields out there. We still have plans for a T-ball field on the air side. The new concession stand is great. The new all-exclusive playground area is super. It's being used all the time. We are looking at expanding that and putting more devices in. And Michelle, Parks and Recreation, is also working on a RC track. Did not know anything about this until she brought it up. A radio-controlled track so they can host radio-controlled RC racing tournaments out there. Doesn't take a whole lot of space to have one of these, but she's got plans drawn up, and that's coming, and we're going to have that out there. So the park's being used. The Cabot Panther Flag Football League uses our park every Saturday and other days during the week for their program. They've been there for a couple of years after moving out of Cabot. It's now here, and if you want to watch a little football and you've never been out there, come on out. It's a lot of fun. It's flag football, but these guys, I guess guys and gals, kids have a great time learning football, learning sportsmanship, and everything goes along with that. And so if you have a Saturday, or if you're driving by there and see a bunch of people out there, and just stop by and bring your lawn chair and enjoy them. It's a grand time. So we got that going on at the park. Things are moving right along. There has been discussion in the past, and we're going to look at it again at doing some improvements out at Willow Lake to make it a little more accessible to the public. It is a public lake surrounded by homes. We have to be mindful of easements rights and other things out in that area, but there are some possibilities of some public access that does not infringe on private property, which we're not going to do. So that's that's some things that we've talked about for that leg. Let's see. What else we need to talk about? I think I've pretty well covered about everything that's going on or maybe going on or we want to go on. Again, and I got like 5 minutes left, I guess. My door is always open. Some can attest to that. Again, 501-743-2501. Call, text. mayor@cityofward.com. Send in me an email. I think if you have an issue, and first of all, I'd rather you work it through the department heads on the issue, but if you need to get a hold of me, please do so. And I'll help work the issue, or if you just want to come to me and with an issue, or come to me if you want to tell how good we're doing things. We have we've got a great team, literally. I keep praising Michelle at Parks and Recreation. She does a great job out there. Bruce Jones, our Public Works Superintendent, Director, does an absolutely fantastic job with our wastewater treatment plant, keeping it in compliance, keeping the water going to your house. And now he has the street department under him also, and drainage ditches, mowing grass, fixing potholes in our streets, and all that falls under him. We are looking about doing a little more reorganization within the city to create a public works office and move some folks into that, and that'll work well. The ladies in the water office. One thing also, and I think we've talked about this before, we're in a $1 million plus project to replace all the water meters on our system. That's going to be a long-term project because of supply chain issues, because everybody's wanting to do this. But at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, and I'm not sure how long this is going to take, but we will no longer have to send out individuals to read your meter. We will be able to read them in our office at any given time if need be. But there'll also be parameters set up that if there's an abnormal amount of water going through your meter, it'll flag in our system, and we can contact you prior to it getting out of hand and let you know that there is an abnormal amount of water going through your system. Do you have a leak? Are you filling a pool? Or what? And we can help you work through that issue. Same thing about no water going through the line. You know, is there something wrong? Do we have an issue with a medical problem at the house, and there's been no water for a few days? We'll check that out. Tampering, we'll be much more aggressive about people. We'll be able to see if people tamper with the meters, and believe me, people do tamper with the meters. Just had a report of one today. But those things we'll get to work on, and then we set up also that if you go on vacation, you can set up parameters. We can help you set up a parameter that says if any water goes through my system, you want to be notified by text or email. That can be done. And if you're down in Florida on the beach in Destin, nobody should be using your water, but all of a sudden you get a text that somebody's using your water. Water's going through your pipe. Did somebody use it, or did you have a leak now that we need to send somebody out to investigate, or you need to contact somebody to investigate? Those things are coming. That's a long-term project, but once it's said and done, it'll be great for all of us. I mean, consumer and the city itself. So that's a good thing. We are, like I said, we're continuing looking forward to move Ward forward. We do it in conjunction and concert with our neighboring cities. We work well together with the City of Austin and Mayor Chamberlain, Mayor Kincaid and I and Cabot work well together. I've had people say, well, why does Cabot get all the businesses? Well, they do. They have the infrastructure for it. They have the funding for it and some other issues. But just remember, what's good for Cabot is also good for us. Because if we may not have a particular business or a restaurant in town, but if you go to Cabot, yes, Cabot's getting a tax money, but there's also a county tax money. And part of that county tax money goes to us and all the other cities within the county. So it's good for the entire county. But if we go, and I say we because I do this too, to the Walmart in BB or to a restaurant in BB, all our money goes to White County. And the fact is, I'd rather keep our money in our city in our county. But, well, I hope it's been good for those of you who have been watching. Again, contact me anytime at 7:30, and the fact of the matter is, I think I'll go home and see if I can find something to eat. So have a good night. God bless you. And again, if you need me, contact us. Thank you.